Welcome to the Chief's Garage. In this video, guys, we're going to begin our process of disassembly of the original 5-liter 302 that came in my 1990 Foxbody. I'm going to take you guys through the disassembly. I'm not exactly sure how we do this camera magic for this one. There may be some pieces of it where I show you principles and then we skip over. In other times, maybe we'll just speed the video up because, let's face it, guys, if you're tearing down an engine, if you take all the bolts out of it, it'll fall apart. And if we were actually doing this in real time and using power tools and not inspecting anything, we could probably get it, apart in about 30 minutes. It's relatively, simple. But that won't help some of the guys who are just getting into engine building, because there's some things that I would want, as a new beginner to understand. And to do that, we're going to have to slow things down a little bit. I'm going to do this in multiple videos. We're going to tear the engine down. I think what we'll do in the second video is the inspection. Show you, what we find. If we find things along the way, we'll stop and video that. But to try to keep this compressed into something that's interesting, but give you relevant information, we'll take maybe a couple of takes to get this done. We haven't bought any parts for the engine yet, because we haven't disassembled it and saw what condition things are in. I will post at the end of this video and at the beginning of the new video our thoughts for this. I've already built this engine multiple times on paper. I've got a complete part list with up-to-date pricing, and I can post all of that for you guys as well. For all of you who followed along through all of the different things that I've done in my Foxbody, guys, thank you. Thank you for your comments. And if you're new to the channel, I would ask that you stick around. If this is something you like, then like and subscribe. I'm open to all of your thoughts. I'll be asking you guys questions, not only in the video, but in some of my posts, because nothing is kind of written in stone other than the fact that, I want to keep the essence of the car the same and not deviate too far from that. If you don't already know, or if you haven't seen some of my previous videos, the car has a newer 306 that I built specifically for something else. But it's the 306. It's just the Ford block with all forged internals. It has Pro Max 175 heads and has a Comp Cam's Extreme Energy 264 cam with an Explorer intake. And in its current trim, it'll make about 360 horsepower to the crank. This new build will be a little different because we're going nostalgia. We're going to put the old engine back. I'm calling this Summit Soldier because I'm going to use some good parts, but some economic parts to do this. It still needs forged pistons, which were factory in this engine, because we plan to boost this later on in its life. So we'll be building everything toward that, but I'm still open to thoughts. I've built this engine, guys. If you watch some of my videos, I've built this thing on paper multiple times, anything from a 331 and 347. I've done all kinds of things with it on paper. Watched a lot of Richard Holdiner videos to see what he's done and what kind of power he's been able to get. And I still come back to the same conclusion. My original thought was a dependable engine for the car, to keep it relatively stock looking in appearance. It's not a race car, but we want it to look and sound good, but reliability is key. So let's get after it. Let's get this thing tore down and inspected, and then we'll be ready to order some parts. Let's get after it. I'm going to try and stay out of your way as much as I can, but to be able to videotape this, as just me by myself, there may be some times when I have to step in front of the camera. But we're going to do the best we can. We're going to pull the throttle body off of this because, first of all, we're not going to reuse this. And behind the camera where you can't see, I've already bagged everything and already labeled for all my bags. So let's get it all apart. I'm not going to be using power tools for everything because there's some things that you need to have the feel of how they come apart. And it's one of those things that helps you to really feel how things are. Now, granted, I've taken this engine apart probably, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. Pulled it apart because we needed to do some things in the upper end of it, and I got all of that stuff done. And I drove this car for many years with this engine. I did a compression test on it. Compression looked to be, relatively good. So I said, well, you know what? We're gonna put it all together, take it out and drive it, because I wanted to get the car off of jack stands. So I pulled the heads off, had the heads redone about 2,000 miles ago. So it's only got about 2,000 miles on the heads on this. Put a new oil pump in it. Timing chain was slack, so I put a new timing chain in it. And for you guys that are watching, these are all Torx bolts, and it gets you to the bolts inside, and you can see I've already had this apart. But let's keep moving. And I got it all apart, put a new oil pump in it, put a new timing chain on it. And after getting all of those things done, I ran it, and it ran decent. I took it to car shows, had a bunch of fun with it. But it got to the point where, I was feeling like I really needed to take some time and get the car really roadworthy. And to do that, I decided to find another block. So I went out and found that 302, got it off of Facebook Marketplace, and took the time to build it, drove the car around on this. It burned a little oil in it. We'll get into it later. You'll probably see that some of the areas in it, and you can see this all taped up because I had this off before. But wasn't really that happy with the performance, because the car, of course, as I said before, was burning a little bit of oil, and in order to stop that, I went and built another engine so that we could kind of keep things moving. It's been a labor of love to work on this car over the years, and I'm kind of happy I took the time to build another engine for it. I was talking with a friend of mine here recently, telling him that I actually am looking for a Ford Maverick. That'll be our next piece of this, I think. Like I said, guys, I have power tools and we could do a lot of this. Some of it I don't like to use power tools on because I want to know how well things went together. Things like the intake of all of this, like I said, I've had this apart, not recently, not since I ran it, but we're just gonna zip things apart for now. Don't know how well you guys can see this, but on the back of your intake back here, where you have your PVC valve, there's a screen, a strainer that's inside of this, and you need to have that strainer in there. If you don't have that strainer in there, it'll pump a bunch of oil. See how easy this is to get off. It's that easy. It does have a little bit of buildup still underneath that, and that's some of it that I didn't get cleaned off when I initially took it apart. I'm looking at the gasket surfaces now just to see if I had any leaks, and it doesn't appear that there was any. And yes, I actually used gaskets on the China rails. and I held them all down with RTV in the corner. It didn't have any leaks at all. I know that because I made a smoke tester, and I actually smoke tested it, and it didn't have any leaks. I also cleaned out the valley and everything when I had the heads off. Sent these out to a local machine shop, and they took the time to do a 3-angle valve job on them. Sent them back all hydroed and ready to go. Everything that I'm looking at in here right now tells me that yeah, it was sealed up nice and tight. No leaks from the water jackets. Everything looked pretty good. All right, let's keep going. We get the headers off, and I had these off, so that should be pretty simple. And they're at 3/8. Yeah, you're gonna hear me running around back and forth here, so hopefully that's not too annoying for you guys. But it is what it is. This is what we're gonna do, and if you're sticking with me, I appreciate it. I'm gonna probably edit some of this out anyway, so that you guys don't have to hear me running around doing a bunch of stuff, and won't take up as much of your time. But for documenting it, I will have all of this on tape so that later on, if I decide to go back and look at anything, I'll have it. And when I was 12 years old, my mom asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I told her I wanted a toolbox. And so she bought me a Craftsman toolbox, and I've been wrenching on things ever since. I was actually wrenching on cars before I was old enough to drive them. So the headers that I have on here now, the original headers that were on the car when I bought the car, they were not in the best of shape. So I needed some headers just to put on it so that I could get it on the road. So I bought these from Summit, I believe. These are pacemakers. They're not the best. They're in design, and they're not constructed really well, but they were at least equal to what was on the car when I bought it, which I broke off studs in it, and rather than weld them back up, which it was my original intent, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go out and purchase a set of cheap headers for this. I think I paid about $129 for these, and threw them on the car, and of course, you know, it got me through a couple of years where this wasn't a high performance engine. It was all original, like I said before. But they serve their purpose. Would I recommend them? Only if you don't have anything else. All right, we'll get the valve covers off here and take a quick look. Valve covers. All right. All right. For you guys who've torn down 302s before, there's no real adjustment other than if you put shims. Now you can put shims under each one of your rocker arms if you had to do that. But other than that, they're just torqued to a torque spec. Now you can go and crank the engine around, which is what I suggest. So go find a socket, we'll crank this around. And you turn it 90 degrees for each one of your firing order. And if you do that in firing order, you will get to the point where you'll find, loose rocker arms when it's at top dead center on that particular cylinder. And that, of course, will relieve any spring tension you have on the push rods. Most of the guys will tell you, man, just zip the things off. You're not doing anything. You're not, you're all you're doing is disassembling the engine. It really doesn't matter. I've got a setup tray over there that we're going to put this in. We are not going to reuse the stock rocker arms. Not that we couldn't for the level of build that we're using. But these things got a lot of cycles on them, guys. The car had 164,000 miles on it when I bought it. I disassembled it, cleaned all of this up, put it back together and ran it. But for what we're doing, because we're in there already, we're not gonna reuse these. Now, these are, of course, are pedestal, and you can buy roller pedestal rockers that'll free up a little power for you. The dollar to, return on your investment, dollar to horsepower gain is something you have to make a decision for yourself, whether that's something you want to do. But you just know that you can. Our thoughts is we're going to reuse these E7 TEs in this build. There's a lot of pieces we're going to reuse. I'll tell you what they are as we look at the spreadsheet, and I'll show you on there some of the thoughts that I have of why I want to use some of the parts over again. For the level of build that we're making, we're going to probably be looking for about 302, 306 horsepower, which is, a horsepower per cube, which is about all you're going to get out of this. Even with, porting these heads and the cam that we select for this, that'll be about the range that this will do. To get it above that, we're going to have to do some forced induction, either one way or the other. Whether you want to spray it, which we don't want to do because I don't want to buy bottles all the time. But in a nostalgic way of looking at how these cars would have been in that time era, the simplest way to get this in the 375, 400 horsepower range, which is a plus 100 over naturally aspirated, is going to be some type of forced induction. Whether we do that with a turbo or with a supercharger. Now, back in the day, the guys would have just, ordered up a Paxton supercharger, put a supercharger on this, and away you go. But I'm not sure that that's the way we're going. I'm still kind of on the fence with that. So we're going to pull the heads off of it. And after that, we'll get the front end off. And it's been setting for a few months. So all of the oil and everything that's in here that could possibly drip is in the oil pan. Now, this we can roll it over and turn it upside down and take the pan off, and that'd be simpler, but it's messier. And remember that when your engine has fluids in it, especially coolant, this bank and this bank are only tied together by the water pump. There's still water deep inside of this. So when we turn it upside down, it's going to make a mess. So we're going to pull the cylinder heads off. We're going to take the oil pan off with it in this upright configuration. And that way, all that drippings of oil are still down there. And that way we can not make a real mess. All right, let's take a break and then we'll take over from there. Next, what we want to do is we want to remove all of the rocker arms, and I'm going to do them in the order, the firing order, order rotation. Since this is a roller motor, it's the same firing order as any 351 302 high output roller motor, which is 137265448. So I'm just basically going to go through that and remove all of those things. And rather than have you guys watching me just take these off, all I'm going to do is zip them all off and I've already got a tray, and hopefully this is on the camera. You can see that I'm going to put them all in the order that I removed them, because we're going to inspect them later. So right now, just going to get it apart. Going to take off number 1, and when I go to number 3, because this is passenger side, if we were to turn the engine around, this would be 1, 2, this is 3. So turn the crank 90 degrees from where it is right now, and we'll be on 3, then another 90 degrees and we'll be on 7. And we're going to go through that and get all the rocker arms off and all of the push rods, intakes and exhaust all sorted and into the tray, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, so we've got all of the rocker arms off, and I'm going to spin the camera around here in a second and show you how I've got them all organized along with everything that came off the top end. It's not super important right now because we're not going to reuse any of those things. I've got it all sorted so that I can look at it. Every engine tells a story, and if you take the time to look at what you find when you disassemble it, it will lead you in directions of things that you might want to do when you do your build. Because we're going to reuse these heads, they've already been machined. Like I said before, we're not sending them out to a machine shop. We are going to change the valve springs. We are going to lap them, put them back together. We are going to lightly massage some of the ports. I'm going to show you how to gasket match. We're going to do that as well. And because these are E7 TEs, they were originally smog heads. So there's a thermactor hump that's in the exhaust ports, and we'll get into that later once we start to port the heads. And the reason we're tearing these off, a little earlier without buying parts is we're going to start doing the porting of the heads before we send it out to machine shop, because of course we want to send the entire crank, which we're going to reuse. We're going to have new rods and new pistons probably. Well, not probably, we are, because we're going to be 30 over. I'm pretty sure that's where we'll have to go to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the heads off. Going to put you guys on the brake and bring you back with the heads off. Very simple. We're going to start in the center. We're going to unbolt them in the same torque pattern that Ford would give you to torque them on. And once I've got all that and all the mess all cleaned up, bring you back and I'll show you in the bores. After that, we'll drop the pan. Once the pan is dropped, we'll flip it upside down and start knocking the pistons out if we can, depending on how big the ridge is in the top of the cylinder, whether they will want to come out or whether we'll have to ridge ream in order to get them out. All right, on to the next step. Okay, we're back. We've got the cylinder heads off, and I've taken the time to mark them. You don't have to do this, but as a part of the inspection, I want to know where number 1 and number 5 were when we took them off. And looking at the bores, which we really can't see that great now because the pistons are still in. We'll get them out and we'll take a better look after we get the front end apart. Just some gasket debris. But it appeared that the gaskets all sealed really well. But I guess my only real concern is, as you're looking, you can see the level of carbon that's on all of these pistons. And you get to the number 5, and it's exceptionally clean. And normally you only see that if you have a coolant leak that's getting into the cylinder itself, and that coolant leak in most cases will basically steam clean the piston. I'm going to investigate the intake a little better, which we haven't actually done yet, but I'm going to take some time and look at that and see if I can figure out if we in fact had a coolant leak, and if, like I said, if we're ingesting coolant into the combustion chamber, it's going to be much cleaner, and it's going to basically steam clean all the carbon off. From here, I'm going to go get the puller. We're going to pull a harmonic balancer off so that we can get the front cover off. And once I pull the balancer and I'm going to pull the cover, we'll get the oil pan off. Well, maybe I'll take the oil pan off first, but I'm going to take it off in this position. As you can see, I told you before, there's still coolant inside of there because there's coolant down in my tray down there. And we should dispose of that responsibly. But let's keep going. I'll see you in the next piece of this segment. Okay, so we got a fresh battery in, and I got a little ahead of you guys because I've already dropped the oil pan, and we're going to get into, some things that I see in the bottom of that in a few minutes. But we're going to continue with the teardown. Front cover is off. So is the harmonic balancer. And guys, you can't pull that off without a puller. So yeah, you'll probably end up damaging it if you don't use a puller. Now, timing set is still on. From here, we're going to go to the top side. We're going to pull the spider. Once I get the spider out, then I'm going to pull all of the lifters out, and that's pretty simple. If you need to, you could use something like a magnet. Most of the time, you can get these out pretty simple. But we're going to pull all the dog bones, which are these little devices here. We're going to pull those dog bones after we pull out the spider bolts. And we'll get all of that separated and bagged and tagged. We'll come back up front here. I'm going to pull single cam bolt on a Windsor. I'm going to pull the cam bolt, get the timing set off. And let's see how much slack that has there. It's not a lot, because this is actually a newer timing set. It's not original to the engine. When I originally took this apart and redid the heads, I replaced that in, as well as the oil pump, and we'll get to that when we flip it upside down to start pulling rods and mains. We're going to pull the extension tube for the oil sensor. I've already marked this with a mark because we're going to drill this and tap it. For forced induction, we are probably going to need oil, and although you could probably buy some setup or go to your local box store and put a bunch of fittings together, the simplest way is to just drill it here, tap it to match this, and there's more than enough material there. And you can still run your oil pressure sensor in the same spot and tap off it, or vice versa. You could send this to your turbo, and you could use this spot to put your oil pressure sensor. So give me a moment. Rather than drag you guys through all of that, I'm just going to zip the bolts out of here, pull all this stuff off real quick. And as soon as I get all of that out, the engine flipped upside down, I'll be back. This isn't absolutely necessary, but my old chief taught me this. He says, whenever you pull an engine down, always go in and make sure that your timing marks are aligned, because you don't know what the last person did. Now, I know that I put this together, so I know that the timing marks are aligned, and you can see there's a dot on the upper gear, and you can see there's a little O there on the smaller gear right above the keyway. So we know that the engine was basically timed. It's not set up advanced or anything on here, so we'll go from there. Okay, so we have the cam out, and it's in amazingly good condition. It's absolutely reusable. If this was just a stock rebuild, we would just go back and put the original cam back in. And yeah, like I said, man, that is just really good. Our next task is to remove the oil pump. This is not the original oil pump. I replaced the original oil pump with this one. And we're going to pull the oil pump off, and then we'll start pulling out pistons. And there's 600 different YouTube channels out there where you guys will see people pull pistons out. Nothing to it. The ridge is small enough that I believe we can just tap them out easily. I will set the camera back up. Probably tap out number 1 for you, and then the rest of them we'll pull out, and once we're done, I'll put them on the bench and we'll go back and look at them. After that, it's just, repetitive, redundant, and not something that I want to spend a whole bunch of your guys' time on. So let's get after that. Okay, guys, so we're down to pulling out the pistons now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the number 1 piston, as I said in the previous section here, and then after that I'll just pull all the rest of them out, and we'll go from there. This is the original pistons, and I know that because of the markings and of course the model number that they have on them. But one of the things that Ford does is Ford marks all of your pistons, and it marks them to the side of the engine that they go. Of course, if the engine were right side up, this would be passenger side front, and that's marked as number 1. And of course, each side of the cap is marked as well, so that this cap goes with that rod, and of course you can't mix that up. The same thing here, you can see that this is number 5 on this side, and it's marked here 5.5. So we know that that cap goes with that rod. So let's get this number 1 piston out here real quick, and then we'll go from there. And yeah, this is all originals, never been a part before since 1990. The connecting rod caps on your Foxbody are registered by the bolt. So it's you can't just replace the bolts without resizing the cap itself, because they're a match set. So if you're thinking that, well, I want to reuse my rods and just put a set of, you know, ARP bolts in it, if you replace the bolts, you have to resize the rod. Oops, got my gloves stuck in there. Let's try that again. Okay, and you just saw the bearing spin around in there, but we'll get that. If you look inside of your cap, what you're seeing right there, it's called brindling. It actually means that the bearing itself kind of squirms a little bit in there. Not very much, but squirms a little, and that's what leaves those little marks. Let's get some boots on this thing and get it tapped out. My thought is that we are going to reuse possibly this crankshaft, so we will make sure that we don't have any issues at all. Come on, you. These have been sitting on the shelf long enough. They're now got oil on them, so they're hard to open. But you know, if you buy a set of Cleveite bearings, sometimes you'll just get this with it, and you'll have what you need to be able to protect your journals here. Because one of the things you don't want to happen is you don't want to nick your crankshaft taking the rods out. And see, right now there's a bearing on the bottom right there that I'm trying to get, and there's a lower rod bearing. We know that because it doesn't have a hole in it, and we're going to clean these up and look at them. But I see some things in there already that tell me that there was trash and it wasn't necessarily happy. But we'll go over that in a few minutes. Let's get this rod out and we'll go from there. And just like that, that's your piston out. And this is the number 1 piston. None of the rings are stuck. They all move. And they weren't in alignment until I just started messing around with them. There's a decent amount of carbon in the cylinder that scraped out when I took it out. Here's the upper. And I don't know how well we can see that on the camera, but it's down to the copper. And that just means, and this is the load side, of course, this is compression. And you can see that it's all the way down to the copper. So we're going to turn the camera off for a moment. I'm going to repeat this 7 more times, and then we'll be at the crank, and I'll be back. All right, guys, we have this one last corner to turn, and we'll be done. We're going to pull the crank out now. Getting the pistons out, you know, no big deal. Something that you know, if you work with engines for a while, it's really simple to do. One of the things that I noticed that's consistent with all of them, is on the load side, they are all down to the copper, something that would be consistent with an engine that just has a lot of miles. The crankshaft looks to be in pretty good condition. I'll talk to the machine shop. There's nothing so far, you know, knock on wood, that says that we couldn't just polish it, because it doesn't have any grooves in it at all. So we could basically polish it. Now, it does have a seal saver on the back that I put on, which is a stainless, and that doesn't really, you know, it's not here or there. But let's get after it. Let's get this out, get the crank out, and we'll call that the work that we intended to do for the day. Now, these are the original Ford bolts, and a lot of the guys will reuse these, and I'm not saying that you can't, because I've done it before, but some of the bolts you should research to see if they're torque to yield. Torque to yield just meaning that once they've been torqued, you can't use them again, because they've stretched to the spec, and they don't go back after they're stretched. So one of the things that I would, you know, caution anyone about reusing bolts, guys, for a few dollars more, get yourself a set of ARPs, better clamping force. You can know that they're not going to let go later on when you get it under power. So for me personally, I don't reuse them. I'm not going to reuse the head bolts. Even though they're not the original ones, they were torque to yield, and I bought them knowing that. Yeah, just when you're putting things together, there's some places where you need to consider a few dollars more could be the difference between something that's really reliable and a disaster and the loss of some of your funds because you cut a corner here or there. Now, granted, guys, if the best you can do is, you know, a set of, you know, standard bolts, then you do that. But if you're really going to throw power at one of these, make the bottom end strong. Think about where all your forces are and make sure that you're putting your money where it'll handle those. Now, there's still a lot of sludge that's here. I took this engine apart. I cleaned a bunch of stuff out of it when I took it apart, but I didn't take the crank out. Yeah, this one I didn't take the crank out. All I did was take it down to the rotating assembly and redid the head. So these bolts are the originals. I replaced the head bolts. All right, we're going to check register here in a minute. So when I'm saying check register, each of these caps is placed in, and it should be tight. You shouldn't be able to just get this out without possibly bumping them on the sides or using the bolts to wiggle them to get them out. If the register isn't there, you stand a high chance of spinning a bearing because the cap doesn't fit tight in the register. And the register, the bolts are the clamping force, but what holds it true is the register, and the register has to be correct. When you take it to a machine shop, especially if you're going to machine it, he'll probably call you back and tell you, hey man, the register's bad here, and that's something the machine shop can take care of for you. But if you were, let's say this was just a freshening, you're freshening it up, you look at it, you decide, well, I'm going to put it back, I'm just going to either hone the cylinders, or I'm going to run a bead hone through them to break the glaze and put it back together. See, this is tight, and the bolts are not tight. If they were not tight, that would not be good. All right, so let's get after it here. This is number one. And you can see I had to tap it to get it off of there. And that bearing looks decent. We'll get them all off here, then we'll talk about it. And yeah, I'm dragging you all around inside the garage, but it's all good. And from Ford, from the factory, these are all marked. And they have not only a mark that tells you the position. For instance, I just took off number 1 and had an arrow pointing to the front of the engine. This is now number 2. Number 2, arrow. Number 3, which is your thrust, arrow. Number 4, arrow. And of course, you can't get the number 5 wrong, because number 5 has the rear main seal in it, and it's the only place that it'll fit. So normally I just take this up, lift it up a little bit, and just tap it on the side to get it up out of the register. Yeah, you'll notice that the number 3, your thrust, on the passenger side has a longer bolt, and it has this this extension on the end. That's because that holds your drive for your oil pump. And if you can't remember that it goes there, just go with a little marker or with a punch and put a punch mark there. So you'll know that this bolt goes there when you put it back together. Yeah, because if you use a marker, you send it to the machine shop, by the time they clean it, it'll be gone. And you'll notice the thrust, not only is it a bearing, but it also has faces on each side. And when I look at those faces, this is the front of the engine. Under load, it's going to press on this side, and I see copper. That just means that it's got a lot of miles. And probably along with that, we don't know the history of whether it had good maintenance during that. One of the other things that I would tell you guys, especially when you're assembling an engine, the bearings are not concentric when they are not under compression. And I'll see guys, they'll put all the bearings in, they'll lay the crank in, they'll rotate it, and you shouldn't do that, because the bearings are only concentric when they are compressed. And the likelihood of damaging the crank isn't that great, but it is possible. So you should never rotate the crank unless you have both halves of the cap, have the caps together, and have them under tension so that it makes the bearing concentric around it. And don't do it with no lubrication. It has to have some lubrication. Woohoo, that's tight, I like it. Man, the crank looks good. All the bearings, that one dragged a piece of something through it because I see a little scratch all the way around. This is a softer material than the crank, and I don't see that a matching mark in the crank, which is good. All right. Now, we'll give me a moment here because that was filthy. Need to clean my hands up a little bit, because one of the things that we don't want to do is try to pick the crank up out of here with dirty hands and, of course, drop it to the floor, because it's pretty brittle, and it will break easier than you think. All right, give me a moment here. One of the things that I like to do with crankshafts for storage is I'll paint all of the journals with grease, and then take a regular paper, like masking paper that you'd use for masking painting, put it around each one of the journals to hold the grease to each one of the journals. You can buy, and I actually have a crank in the corner over there that I'll show you in a bit, but buy one of the tubes that you would like store mechanical drawings and stuff in, and pack it in that with ends on it. And it'll keep the moisture out, it'll keep it nice and clean, and when you're ready to use it, the journals won't be all rusty. Because if we can keep the journals in a good condition, chances are that you won't have to turn it undersized if it's, you know, clean and you can polish it, especially a newer crank where you know it's a good crank, it's true, and you would want to do that. This actually has a new pilot bearing in it because I put a new pilot bearing in it when I took the engine out of the car. And just like that, the crank's out. Always store your crank standing up. Do not lay it down on the side. Down to the copper. These are a tin alloy. There's some bearings are made of Babbitt. Some of them are just completely aluminum. Just depends on what kind of service you want. But these are original Ford bearings, and there's some core shift in this because either that or I'll have to inspect the balancer. But here at the snout, this is the front of the engine this way. It's on this side of the engine, which would be on the driver's side. This driver's side of the bearing is down to the copper here, but it's not the other ones. It's actually the opposite because we have these number 3 and number 4 are to the copper here on the passenger side. So when we go to talk to the machine shop, I like to bring the bearings and stuff with them. If you're going to line hone this, you're going to cut some off of the cap, you're going to put the caps back in, and you're going to true all of that up. And it's going to make the engine as true as it can be. You're going to reference off of that trueness to deck the block itself so that you know that your piston rises the same amount in each one of the cylinders. That's all a part of the balancing process. Guys, some of that, now you can get away without doing all of this. You can. I've done it. I've seen it done. It will run. But if you want to make some big power, pay attention to the details. Make sure that everything is balanced, everything when you assemble it is clean, and that to the best of your ability, you've returned it to the specs that it was designed for. Millions of these things came off of, out of the forge, and they were all machined, probably hundreds of them a day. There's little bits of changes and differences in the milling machines themselves, which when you add all of those little amounts up, you end up with something that deviates from the original design. And if you can go to a good machine shop and have it back to its design, it's the foundation. Some of the other things you can skimp on and make a better economic choice on, but it should not be in your machining. Find a good machine shop, somebody you can trust. All right, guys, we're down to what we would say in the Navy is parade rest. So it's down to parade rest. From here, we're going to clean the shop up and go from there. Okay, guys, that wraps up the teardown. We got everything disassembled, which was our goal for today. Now the work begins. We need to get parts cleaned up. I need to get some things measured. Once we've done all of that, we'll be ready to start ordering parts. In the meantime, as we collect pieces, we're going to go through the cylinder heads. We're going to disassemble those. We're going to go in and remove that thermactor hump. We're going to smooth some things out on the exhaust side, not going to really mess with the floor or the roof. But that's going to keep us busy while we kind of work through. I'm still kind of on the fence about a couple of things, but after I talk to the machine shop and figure out what I have that's usable, we'll be able to go from there. But right now, the same thing. Gonna use the stock cylinder heads. Whether it has a different rotating assembly, I'm still on the fence about that. But I'll have a definite answer in my head in the next couple of days of what the real deal here is. If we were to stroke this out to 331, and it would still look stock appearing. It would still be the original block. It would still be the original heads. I intend to use the original intake. You could still get in the 375, 400 range with boost. We'll see. But Guys, I appreciate you coming along with me. I'm going to see if I can't go inside. And if you're looking at this video now, you're probably seeing a whole bunch less than it was when I actually started filming it, because I want to try to keep this, you know, in a good time zone where it doesn't drag it out. But at the same time, try to make all of the information I can relevant. So thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button. Send me comments. Guys, I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing here. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Get out there and build something.